here. My questions and comments concern mainly cannabis. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experiences. First, I'd like to distinguish between GST and HST and excise taxes. These are two different issues, in my opinion. I'd like to go back to GST, HST. I'm not sure who can respond, but GST, HST already applies. Is that right? Yeah, it will apply to medical and non-medical cannabis sales once the bill goes into effect. I understand in the bill that there's an exemption for products that are sold on prescription and with a DIN, carry a DIN. Is that realistic, as in your opinion, to have a DIN on products? That'll take time and it will cost money. Currently, Canadians want access to medical marijuana. According to research, clinical research, a DIN, a drug identification number, would prove that the medication is effective. It will take us time to carry out studies, to get organized. First of all, to be able to present an application to Health Canada that would have to be approved. Yes, indeed, in the short term, it's not realistic. This exemption will exist, but no one can take advantage of it right now. What's important, Mr. Dusseault, is that this is an emerging industry. Our knowledge of the cannabis industry or of cannabis will grow with time. But we can't currently offer cannabis as a medicine. We already have products that have less than 0.3 THC. So we can offer that type of product to Canadians. But a whole host of pains and illnesses affect patients, and the THC a THC of less than 0.3% will not necessarily help them. So the DIN and the limit of less than 0.3 THC don't really seem pertinent for you. If we talk about excise tax now, what I consider to be the other major issue, you'll be asked to have a producer's license issued by the CRA as a cannabis producer. The main issue, as far as I'm concerned, is that how can a producer discriminate between medical and recreational marijuana? Do you know businesses that will be producing both types of products? For example, that have a medical license and a recreational license. As you know, our industry is very regulated. Currently, we're preparing to obtain a license for excise tax. We are ready to meet legal obligations. Mr. Warrack, or others perhaps? Can you tell us about the price difference? Has anyone done an analysis on this between medical cannabis today and medical cannabis once the bill goes into effect? Do you have an idea of the difference in price right now and the difference in price once the bill is in effect?
Unfortunately, we just don't know because we don't have the systems fully in place and supply agreements are still being formed and adult consumer use sales networks being finalized. What I can say in a generalized fashion is I would anticipate medical cannabis to be slightly more affordable than adult consumer use cannabis. We expect different product categories to sell in the adult consumer use marketplace as opposed to the medical. But the implication of excise tax, in addition to HST and GST, will significantly add to the cost, perhaps by 25% to medical production. Now, we can, through the ACMPR, ship directly to patients, and that gives us some efficiencies to keep costs low. Ultimately, it would be cheaper for us to simply apply excise tax to all products. It's easier from a production standpoint, but ethically it's wrong, and we won't do that to patients. So we would rather have a more complicated system from our production standpoint, because the patients are what made us what we are today, and they will continue to support us, and we will not forget them.
Fait que ce serait réaliste et possible.
So it would be realistic and possible for a producer to sell both types, that is, to discriminate between the two types, medical marijuana, which would then not be subject to excise tax. Mr. Killeen, is that realistic? We offer medical cannabis to Canadians through online sales. We already have a system in place to offer this type of service to our medical patients. However, we'd have to have the excise tax system for the recreational clients. It will be more expensive for us, but we're well aware of our obligations towards Canadians who consume medical cannabis. Without them, we wouldn't be here today.
Pierre.